What's up, everyone? Thank you for joining us for a special edition going back into the JomezPro vault. This time, we're going back to 2014 to the Glass Blown Open final round in Emporia, Kansas. And here to join me to commentate over this round for the first time is Jeremy Koling and Simon Lizotte. What is up, guys? Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, it's my pleasure, man. This is some good memories back in the old days when Emporia, Kansas was all we had to deal with was a wind. The course wasn't that difficult. Now it's like really, really tough, but it was different times.
Yeah, and
of course, one of the most special events for me of my career, and it's a great memory. And I haven't watched this in probably years, so I'm excited.
Yeah, I mean that was 6 years ago now, and I don't know. It just seems fitting to be able to go back and relive this version of the Glass Blown Open. This was our first time to go to the Glass Blown Open as JomezPro. Me and Michael went. It was our first time to ever travel out of state for a tournament, and now this year, unfortunately, we had to miss out on the Glass Blown Open. So I'm really bummed because that was going to be, it's just been a tradition for us. So anyways, at least we get to come together and finally give this round the commentary it deserves with two people that were on the card, the both of you. And yeah, let's get into it.
Hell yeah.
I remember this intro. Oh yes, the spinning disc.
Who threw that?
That was me. Michael made the song and everything, just like always.
Why do we all have our hands in that trophy? Only one of us gets to walk away with it.
Solid sponsors already, killing it.
Yeah. Okay, so you got 2 strokes over me and 4 over McBeth and Wysocki.
The nerves were real, and I remember this was obviously my first year in the States, my first time leading a big tournament, and jamming on Paramore.
And I think this was the first year that we got to choose our own intro song. And so this was a really fun thing that we got to add. And what a killer tee shot to start off like that.
Yeah, of course, this was a crazy par 4 to start the round. What was it, par 3? Did they call it par 3? It's probably par 3.
I just need you to be quiet for a second. So can we pause this real quick, Mike? All right, so real quick, I remember hanging out in San Angelo in 2014 with Jonathan, the first time I ever met the Jomez boys, and we were staying at Micah Mariano's house, and the Sexy Saxman Saxograms video was something we watched all week. That week was the week that I had signed up for GBO, and I had picked that song to be my intro. I had completely forgotten what song I had chosen to be my last round tee-off song. So when I stepped up, that was a genuine reaction. I had no idea what was coming up, and I could not hold it together. The fact that the disc came out of my hand forward, I remember feeling like super accomplished. Anyways, let's get back to it.
I can't believe I picked that song.
That was really funny. I thought that was really funny.
You still remember that today?
I remember that moment. I was like, of course Jerm would do that.
I just love after you release it, you're like, I can't believe I picked that song.
Yeah. What did Paul go with? Wait for it.
Gotta be some rap.
I remember that was the first time I ever had to censor a word in my videos because the GBO guy, the DJ, he played like an unedited version.
It's just so weird because that is like, when I think of what music Paul would listen to, I just don't think of rap with curse words. And I think Ricky did the same thing.
Prodigy disc, your 2010 Junior World Champion, Ricky.
Man, those shorts are just spicy.
Oh, Rap God. Yeah, that was interesting. They had to choose the 2010 Junior World Champion. That was Ricky's most notable accomplishment. That's not true. He was already a major champion, but I think that's just what he thought was the most relevant for some reason. I don't know.
You remember for years they put the 2008 amateur champion. That's what they said on yours.
Well, that was the most relevant thing. This is before I had ever won a national tour, a pro tour, or a major. So that was definitely the most important win of my career, and probably still to this day, I think it might be the most important thing that I've ever won.
Wow, my putting style has changed a lot.
Yeah, well, you still make a lot of putts this round, if memory serves correct. That was, and that was such a big putt to start off the round with. They may have called this a par 3. I don't quite remember. I think this might have been in the days when they considered this a par 4. Now, obviously, we don't play this hole in this configuration, but this was such a great starting hole. I loved it. And to make a 2 on it would have been a huge statement. That being said, you still gained a stroke on both Paul and Ricky.
Yeah, I remember. That was kind of what I was trying to do this round. I remember you were on the card, but I was never really worried about you for some reason.
Wow. All right. How about that? The truth
Things have changed. I'm always worried about you now.
Yeah, sure you are. So that was a very common mistake, to go out of bounds left on this hole. There usually is like a kind of a tailwind on this hole to really push these drives long. And with that tailwind, if you don't get the drive turned over like Paul has here, if you're just throwing it with hyzer, it tends to get down to that water so quick. And even this one's probably going to be getting pretty close. And that was a beautiful tee shot. So it's just amazing how often that drive goes OB with the backhand here.
Yeah, well, from one of the most amazing things right now is the video quality that Jomez has changed. I've always wondered, like, is it just better cameras now, or is there so much more to it? Because it's like night and day, the difference of a couple of years.
It's definitely the cameras.
Yeah, it's just...
We were filming with Canon 5D Mark IIs, 5D Mark IIIs back then, and yeah, the DSLR quality has just gone just through the roof since then.
And it's also, it's a little shaky, and like the camera angles, like that's a pretty traditional camera angle, but you guys do such a great job now of getting behind the player and seeing kind of what the player gets to see with their shot. Like, I don't think that you guys ever would have gone with a side scroll unless it happened to be like a replay or something, but I don't know.
Yeah, we definitely have learned a lot about what I always call the dance between the players and the media and everything, where to stand, and so lots changed.
Sorry, go on.
No, I was just saying a lot's changed. This was probably our 4th tournament ever, and like Michael's maybe 2nd tournament with me, so.
Wow. And the 4th tournament ever, and you guys were getting the league card at one of the biggest tournament national tours. Like, the game is definitely changed. Like I said before, it's a different world now. You got at least five different media companies all trying to get that spot. And at that time, you were just kind of like exclusive. You're kind of like the Netflix. Like, no one challenged Netflix for online streaming of like movies and stuff like that, so it became the best. But they got better, and then there's also competition. So, I don't know if that's a good relation.
This was actually not a national tour back then. This was, I think it was called a super tier or super tour, and it was just an A tier, because I remember this felt like a huge win, but on paper it was just like an A tier win.
How is the Glassbone over? It's surprising me that it wasn't a national tour, just because the aura behind this tournament always brought the best players. And at this time, were you traveling? Were you touring full time in the States, or were you kind of doing a lot more back and forth trips?
No, this was my first year going like full on road trip in the States with Avery. Actually, we were in the brand new Discmania RV, and I mean, at this point, I was already like 2 or 3 months in the States, so I was definitely a bit homesick at this point and looking forward to going back to Germany, because everything was just so big and different for me that I remember it burnt me out pretty quick early on.
Yeah, sure, I could imagine. It's when I go to Europe for a month, I'm always happy to be there for a month, but I think once I start going into like 5 weeks, I'm like ready to get back to the States. Just the way that you're just what you do, your day-to-day habits, like the life is definitely a lot different. Every little tiny thing just starts like kind of add up over time. So when you're doing it full time, it's a shock to your system, I'd imagine.
Yeah, and like now I can't even imagine to live without Chick-fil-A. It's like how did I do it?
So, all right, we're on our 4th hole now, and we haven't quite mentioned. Maybe you guys have noticed. We have tried to recreate our outfits from the 2014 Glassbone Open as best as possible. Simon has actually nailed it. I don't have the same hat or the same sponsor, so I've got a completely different shirt. But this is camouflage with a Hypervolt colored Big Jerm logo, so it's pretty good. But it's pretty amazing that you still have the same gear from all the way back then, 6 years ago.
I don't know if that's a good or a bad sign, but it's always been around. These shirts were actually one of the main reasons I wanted to play for Discmania, because UC was back in the day always about looking professional and looking like serious and looking like the best dressed.
Wow.
And I remember Will Schuster like repping these, Avery, UC, and I was like, man, those guys look so cool in these soccer jerseys, and I really wanted one. So this was like one of my first Discmania shirts ever. That's
actually a really cool piece of information. Like the way that like the sport has changed with the way that people dress, like to think about how that has created such an intrigue for you, which has since led into an entire career with this company. And something as small as that wasn't a frustration kick. I was just trying to do the Devin Owens thing where he kicks the disc out of the basket. But I remember people commenting on like, I can't believe Jerm's out here kicking baskets, which to be fair, I did kick the basket, but it was when the objective behind it is not out of malice. I think it changes a little bit. But these 2 holes right here, the last one and this one, are the first 2 that we see that we still play in today's format. So that's kind of cool to see that these holes have maintained the test of time on this course, which has actually changed so much over the years.
Yeah, cool to see, and brings back memories, definitely, this old school GBO layout. Wow, man, this was like also one of the first tournaments we've played on a golf course back then on the tour. So this was like all around a different experience.
I think that's one of the things that made the GBO seem so fun and interesting, is that it was a completely different event. Like it wasn't that common, like you said, to play on a golf course, and that was always kind of like intriguing to us. Man, I am playing like hot garbage right now. I haven't really been paying attention to my score so far, but now I'm starting to realize I'm not shooting that great.
I'm trying to like recall what was going through my mind during this round. It's hard to remember. It's 6 years ago. I just remember I wanted to like play a solid first couple holes, just like get into the flow, and then just try to let everyone else just make mistakes, and I'm just gonna try and play it like safe-ish. And I remember watching you guys make mistakes, and I was like, cool, this worked out just like I wanted it. But nowadays, I know that like so much more worries and thoughts go into my brain when I'm playing. And I think that comes with age, that the younger you are, the less you care, the less worries you have. And I wish I could go back to this younger mentality where it's just like, whatever, I'm just out here playing.
Yeah, I felt that way too. Starting this event off, it actually was a kind of a crazy event for me. My mother, like a couple of days before the event started, had a stroke. I don't know if you remember that or not, but and I didn't know what to think of it because I didn't know how severe it was, and she lives in West Virginia, and the idea of playing the tournament was one that I wasn't really sure of. And so like it got to the point where I had talked to my family, and they had all decided that it would be great if I played this tournament and thought about her and harnessed my energy into thinking about her the whole time. And then as soon as the tournament was over, I was actually off to West Virginia to go see her and be with her. And she made a full recovery. She just, anyhow, it was something that I was dealing with during this whole event. And I remember like the attitude behind each throw was like, do this for my mom, like make this putt for my mom, like think about her the whole time. And the first round, I believe I shot like a 1095 rated round or something crazy like that. And I remember just thinking like, wow, that's like truly the power of love. Like you can harness that energy into doing, what your body knows how to do. You just putting your head into the right space. That's a sick putt.
Yeah, I don't think I was aware of your situation at this time during the round. I remember your speech at the end where you brought that up, and we all got a bit emotional, and it was definitely a moment. And I can definitely relate to that. I had the same kind of thing at JomezPro like 2 years later, where my uncle. Okay, this is getting too sad now, but
well, yeah,
it's definitely a thing. I can definitely relate.
Sure. And you guys are just killing these putts. Now, I'm the closest right now, and if I make this putt, I think that we can, in hindsight, throw a couple bucks to charity. We don't have to worry about that. So that would have been the first star frame of the group, but didn't work out that way. But yeah, it's playing with adverse conditions when it's just mental. It definitely. It's interesting to see how your body reacts to that. Yeah. So this is the hole that we now play as a par 3, but with a longer tee pad to make it. Was it a par 4 or was it a par 5? I can't remember how far it was. I think it was just a par 4. But this is pretty much downhill the whole way, and just like always out here. When you're going big shots and there's OB everywhere, the wind plays such an important factor into these kind of drives, and just keeping that thing low and driven crazy like that's like such a huge advantage on holes like these.
I don't remember this hole whatsoever. Can we quickly address like why is Jerm's score always just like a dash and not actually a score? I don't even know where he's at right now.
And the
All right,
scoring,
Jonathan.
the scoring was just not our forte. We were just like stoked to be out there filming, trying to. So when it came to graphics and keeping track of data and stuff, we were not there yet. Like I said, this is like our 4th tournament, and we were still figuring things out. So it didn't really cross my mind to put like a E for even instead of just a dash. Or even keep a cumulative score for the entire event. Like honestly, like I didn't even do that. I showed the scores before the round started, and then I started the scores over on the video as opposed to like keeping track. So we knew, like, definitely was left a lot to be desired. So sorry about that.
So you were just like born with it then. You just figured it out from the start, and that's where all the success started.
I mean, yeah, we didn't have a whole lot of background in any of this other than just being amateur players ourselves. But as far as like keeping track of scoring and all that, it just wasn't. I mean, UDisc had literally just started like the same time we did. So they were a sponsor of this tournament, but they didn't have like the fancy app like that everyone uses now. Like, I'm not saying they didn't exist, but it wasn't like, hey, like pull up UDisc. It's just not what we did back then.
No way UDisc existed in 2014.
It did.
That's 6 years. Did it?
Yep.
Oh my gosh.
They were a sponsor of this event in the beginning. They were on our shirts at this tournament. The back of our shirts said UDisc on it.
Oh my gosh.
They were one of the first people to ever give money to support our cause, and we didn't really have anything to speak of for people to believe in us. So they were just like, all right, here you go.
I think that the transformation, I'm just going to keep bringing it up because I think it's so cool. The transformation that this course has taken over the past 8-10 years is just unbelievable. Like at this point, you can see basically just with what you can see on the screen now, what the land has to offer as far as like there's a few trees here, a few trees there, nothing too large as far as the trees go, but like it's a lot of open space. They have since basically turned this into, like, it's still a lot of the same open space that you had before, but now there's some technicality involved. The OB spots, like the landing zones, it's all like based on what challenges these top level pros at the highest level. And my hat goes off to the whole Emporia Dynamic Disc squad, Eric McCabe with his incredible design, and like the way that they just run this event, because it's just like such a special place, and it's just gotten better and better each and every year. And yeah, just like right now being at home, you know, doing these vault commentaries, it just like kind of makes me think about how sad it is that all these events that all these people put so much time into, you know, and all the preparation and getting ready for this, it's just for nothing, you know, not for another year. We gotta wait. It's just kind of a bummer.
Was this a par 5, I think? Was that for eagle? No, par 4. I remember this hole more than any other hole for some reason.
You gotta love it when the hands go up in the air because you finally made a putt. You've been there before, Simon.
Yeah.
But usually it's like you're making like a putt that like is like from 60 feet and you just miss a couple 50 footers and you finally made them from 60. Like it's a little different.
There we go. Jerm is at 1 under par.
There's the hands.
Wow, I was already grunting when I was 21. That's bad.
You were 21 here.
Yep.
Wow.
Oh, that was in bounds back then too.
That used to be in bounds. You could just let it go.
Yeah, they created a hole here just to let it rip, just throw it as far as you can. And now it's so much tighter. They made this hole. They brought the tee back as well. Now you have to go through a gap over off to the right. And this hole was one of the easiest holes to score a birdie on the entire course, and now it's one of the harder ones.
I think that's kind of the theme disc golf is going with. Like every course is just getting tighter, longer, more challenging. For some reason, TDs and course designers hate it if we shoot double digits under par. That's why you just got to make it fluky and impossible. That's how it feels sometimes.
Yeah, with the right designer, you can incorporate that difficulty mixed in with it's a fair challenge, but it's also really hard. If the designer doesn't have as much experience with it, it gets kind of tricky because then you start throwing in like mandatories and out of bounds and like sweet spot landing zones, and then it kind of becomes like not quite as much fun to play. But yeah, you have I don't know how you feel, but I just have so much respect when a tournament when a staff can put together a course that is both challenging and incredibly fun to play.
Yeah, those are the best kind of courses, and I hope moving forward, disc golf can have only those courses on tour.
Yeah, a lot of it comes down to obviously the lay of the land. You know, if you don't have the right land to work with, then you know it's not going to be very, very easy. Oh gosh, it's not very easy to just make something up out of nowhere. Which is kind of what I don't want to say that with a golf course, a beautiful golf course like this, it's not that you have nothing, but like you have a few hills. There's definitely elevation change, but you always have the wind, so you have to design around that as well. You can't just design a course that you think is going to be fun to play, but not think about how the wind's going to play effect. So there's a lot goes into designing the great course designs. And
Yeah.
This was a par 5, right?
4.
Par 4. Okay. Oh, the basket's off to the right. You can see it there.
Yeah, it's another one of these holes where you could just rip it and it, within 400 feet, it didn't really matter where you landed. These holes played in my strength, and I loved them.
I do miss this hole, being able to, you guys can tee off from the elevation and just let it rip. Even whenever we used to tee off from a little bit farther up at the 2016 Worlds, and it was still the basket was a completely different spot, but just having that high up, letting you guys just put on a show, that I liked how the course used to have those in play.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, we definitely lost a lot of really fun holes when you have to redesign it just to make it work, but for the greater good. You just have to decide, okay, this one adds a level 10 hole, but we have to lose 2 level 7s. You have to make that decision whether it's worth it or not. And over time, tinkering with it enough and with enough feedback from the right players, and you eventually get landed on. I don't know, how do you feel about the current design at the Country Club, but I think it's one of maybe the best golf course disc golf combo, that and De La Viega. I think those are my 2 favorite.
It's a whole new level, and obviously the GBO in general is just setting the bar in so many ways in disc golf, and it's grown into, not just because I won the tournament 6 years ago, but it's grown into one of the funnest and I think best tournaments we have in the game.
I remember last year it was so windy that it was you really couldn't even play disc golf the last couple of rounds. It just felt like like I kind of just gave up as far as like letting the emotions of a bad shot affect me because it was just so much fun. It was so windy that it was just like, what am I gonna do? Complain? Like everyone's getting blown around like crazy right now, and the atmosphere around this event is always brings in so many amateurs and so many international players that it feels like maybe one of the only tournaments where you can go to. The entire town shuts down for the sport, and you feel like a superstar. And you're 7 down already this round? How many holes have we played? 6? Like, what are you doing right now?
I think that was hole 9 or 10. I don't really remember, but I remember that this hole right here, right now, this was the deciding hole of my round and at the end, the tournament, obviously.
Oh, look at that great drive.
All these par 3 are freaking long.
Yeah, this one was such a tough par 3. This is a fun hole, but I thought it was like maybe 30 to 40 feet longer than it should be for a par 3. I feel like that should be parked. You know, Paul just ripped that. But maybe Ricky.
Whoa.
Is that something cool? No, that's not cool. That's out of bounds. And is this when you had to go to the drop zone? Oh, you just go where you. No, that's a drop zone right there.
I think that was a drop zone, yeah.
And you had to go to the drop zone too, didn't you?
No, you only go to the drop zone if you never crossed in bounds. I think that was the rule.
Oh.
Ricky hit early left and never crossed the path, so he goes to the drop zone. But I had like this 70-footer uphill from the path.
And this is for a 3. You seriously made that? I don't even remember that. You're an animal right now.
Yeah,
Oh
I
my
think I remember.
God.
I think I remember Eric McCabe like standing right behind me, and he was like, "Nice putt, bro."
That was sick commentary. Yeah, that is such a huge 2. Goodness gracious. And so this kind of feels like it's just really you and McBeth, I feel like, battling it out for the win, even though you started off with 4 strokes on him, and so you've got 5 on him now, and McBeth has me by 2, and I've got Ricky by 1, in case you guys are interested. I think that was the correct math based on the scores before the round started. So
yeah, and that big putt I just made there, I mean, Paul still, whoa, that's a crazy sidearm form there, but that putt I just made, even though McBeth still gained a stroke on me, it was still a momentum shift my way, I think, even though he gained a stroke.
yeah,
Because he's still 5 back, and with that putt, I gain confidence. And I'm like, okay, if putts like this go in, then I'm just going to walk away with it. Like, come on, no chance.
Yeah, I didn't realize you had so many strokes this early in the round. I remember what's about to happen, and I almost don't even want to watch.
Wait, are we going to witness a spit out? I think I darkly remember.
Because this is a hole I think we only played 1 time, and Paul just makes this huge putt. And at this point, I'm still battling with Paul, and I remember thinking to myself, like, all right, this is big time.
Ooh, ouch.
Mike, can we bring back the Jomez just for the sake of this? Could be the first ever like true Jomez. Let's rewind this a little bit just so I can relive the pain. So again, McBeth makes this big putt.
Paul, nice putt.
Yeah, good putt. Like, come on.
Jerm.
That was too flat, too center. And like the situation coming down, of course it happens right then when you're just like, all right, if I can't make that putt after McBeth makes one from 15 feet further than that, like struggling to make a putt for the first like 10 holes of the round, and then finally jammed this putt on like, I remember this being like a really tough birdie. But anyhow. So now.
Whoa, Paul was creeping up.
You still have him by 4 strokes, so slow down.
Look at that. You can see the basket from the tee in this layout.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
and you just gotta go over everything, huh? Again.
I didn't remember that at all.
I don't either.
I parked it.
Wow. And that did not get over the hill. It's too low. And that's actually like kind of like nowadays I can't imagine Ricky throwing anything besides a backhand, but he's been throwing so many forehands this round that it's just like it's just such a blast from the past. You just don't see that same strategy taken to the course anymore.
Yeah, Ricky was back then probably the most powerful sidearm thrower I think in the game. And that was like his main thing, and obviously his putting.
Yeah, he was throwing the forehand maybe a little bit less than me, but he was doing more with it. He was winning tournaments with it because his putt was going in from everywhere. So that was when we like. Now he's accurate, he's refined, he's always had a level of touch, but like at this time, I remember just thinking like Ricky's unbeatable, like when it's heads up against him because he could throw the disc anywhere and he's just gonna make the putt, and it was just so frustrating. And now he's like putting it close and making the putt, so it's just twice as frustrating. And this one's a little bit shorter than it is nowadays, but still always scary because that out of bounds sidewalk is kind of like where you want your disc to land. And you can see that if you hit the sidewalk like McBeth, you can get a big skip left. If you hit right of the sidewalk on the grass, you could stay OB and never come back in bounds. So it was always a very tricky like landing as far as like what discs you select, what angle you throw at the pin, and so on and so forth.
We still play this hole, kind of. We pushed it back a little bit, made it just more tricky. But this hole can make and break rounds also, even though it doesn't seem like one of these holes, but I think I got a triple bogey 6 on it when I was leading the tournament a couple of years ago. And this is hole 12-ish.
It's one of the holes that's super responsible for Valerie Jenkins winning the 2016 World Championships. Paige had a lead or was right there with her, and then I think Paige took a big number and Valerie became the champion. But yeah, it's definitely dictated. It's definitely been the separator in many big tournaments. I believe when Cam Todd won the Glassbone Open, the following year, I think it was in 2015.
16.
Was it 16?
Yeah.
One of the players that was in contention took a big number on that one, and Cam either just got it safe or birdied it, but it was the difference maker.
Wow, my form looks to me so different. I don't know if it is different, but it just looks like, what am I doing? I'm such like I can't believe I threw the world record that year. I'm just like such a skinny kid. Like how?
You just have like this like loosey-goosey form that like is now like turned into a little bit more like you understand your body more now, I think, and so it looks a little bit more structured. Before you were just like flailing limbs, but you had such incredible athleticism and timing that you made it work for you, and like it wasn't like unstructured. It just was like not quite as oh goodness. Ricky's still throwing 500 feet while falling down with his forehand. Jeez. And speaking of records, you like broke a record for the longest roller I've ever seen on this hole. This is the famous roller hole, the famous Eagle McMahon throwing from 380 sidearm hole. This hole's had a lot of great memories.
Yeah, I think that's why they never changed it. I think it's pretty much exactly the same still. And I was always confused why that roller got so much attention, just because I mean, come on, it was a terrible shot.
Your idea of a terrible shot is different than everyone else's, Simon. So, I mean, I think if anyone threw an 800-foot roller and it went out of bounds and it was pin high with a par 4, I don't think they would call it a terrible shot. I think they would say that's the most incredible thing I'll ever do in my entire life.
I mean, given the ability that I have to throw really hard, it's just like, under those circumstances, it was a bad shot. Wait, that went in? Paul.
It. He looked over at us and gave us that little like Paul McBeth like smile.
That was like a sarcastic fist pump too. I love it.
And I had adopted the Ricky Wysocki sidestep. I thought if he could do it, I should try it. It worked with moderate success, actually. I felt a lot of confidence. I felt controlled with it. And it's funny because as soon as I started doing it, Ricky went away from it. So I was like, who am I emulating if he's not doing it anymore? So you're leading the tournament going in this round, and you're shooting the hot round. Just a few holes left to go. Are you already thinking like this is in the bag, or like what's going on in your head? Because you had never won a big time tour event before.
Dude, I don't remember whatsoever what I was thinking. I just remember right now that we finished on the island hole, which has always been hole 17. No, it has changed a lot, the island hole.
Yeah, it's jumped around.
But here this was hole 18, so I think that hole always had me worried. No matter how many strokes you really have going into that hole, if it's windy, like you can easily take a 6 or 7 on that hole, and who knows what's gonna happen. But I definitely didn't think I had it won until the last putt was in the basket. I think I remember that.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, Rick's not playing to the level that we kind of were used to at this point. And I remember thinking that I had played with Ricky at this course, at this event, as the final round several years in a row, maybe just 2 or 3 years in a row, but he had always struggled on this course. And he'd always I'd seen like a version of his mental game that I wasn't used to, at least, where he was like getting visibly frustrated and like not taking his time on every shot. And I'm not saying he's doing that here, but like the years before this he was. And I think it's interesting to see that this was like obviously a course that was one of his nemesis courses, and then he would go on to win the world championships at this very course. I just think that it's cool to see that his mental game took such great improvements.
Yeah, Ricky is quite the character, obviously. Especially his differences on the course and off the course. If you ever get a chance to hang out with Ricky off the course, it'll blow you away how goofy and high energy this kid is. And on the course, he's just locked in, doesn't want to talk to anyone. I mean, it's gotten better over the years now, but he's just doing business. That's what Ricky's about, and he doesn't really care about anyone else.
Yeah, he told me, I asked him about this after years and years of playing with him and having him like really never socialize with me, which was like, I couldn't understand it because we were such good friends off the course, but on the course, like he almost treated me like an enemy. And I found out years later that one of his mentors early on told him that if anyone talked to you during the round, they're trying to work you. And so that's the attitude he took into when he played disc golf with people, is that he didn't want to talk to anyone because he figured that everyone was basically out to get in his head. And it kind of explained a lot of things, actually. Oh, I remember him making that. That is that's the traditional Ricky Wysocki sling it in from 60 feet.
Look how happy he looks. Just a joy.
Yeah, that's pure elation. Hey, a jump putt. I did it.
I think you were still battling here for 3rd or 2nd, right?
Yeah, that actually did bring me right there in the hunt. And I don't remember if I had Paul by 1 or 2. I may have had him by 2 strokes going into the round, because he's got me by 1 going to this final hole, I believe. So this was a shorter island than we play now.
Oh, wow.
Always scary. And I remember like, oh, that's too hard. It hits the tree and stays in bounds. And right there, this is the fist pump. If I wanted any chance to get 2nd place, I needed to.
Oh my god, I didn't remember that either. Off the basket in the water. That's so bad. There's a slow man.
Yeah. Oh, and at least he can smile and laugh about it. He almost gets the ace and he loses his disc at the same time.
Look at that sidearm fluff form. What is going on?
I hated that.
What did you throw there, Simon?
I'm pretty sure that was like one of these flat top Firebirds or something, just trying to cut the wind and force it onto the island, but clearly I didn't know what I was doing at all.
All right, so maybe I had Paul by 3 strokes, and I remember that Ricky hit metal twice in a row on this hole.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's crazy to do. To take a 4 and hit metal on all 3 of your shots. So Paul's parked. I know what this means. Got to make this. And with that awkward stance, that was a tough putt with the headwind. And I'll be honest, I'll let you guys in on something. There's a little vulnerability here. After that putt went down, I went over to my lie, and I broke down and I cried for the next 5 minutes. Should have asked Mike to pause that, because this moment's all about Simon winning his first big event. But
I wasn't going to stop you there.
Yeah, that was an emotional release for me. That making that putt, getting second place at this tournament was huge, because you had already had this one in the bag for a long time.
All right, we are here with the 2014
the reason you don't see me in that
champion,
shot there.
Simon Lizotte. Congratulations, Simon.
Sure.
Talk me through your strategy going into that last round when you knew you
First
had to
interview.
keep it up.
I was leading by 2 over Jerm and 4 over Paul and Ricky, so I don't know, I just wanted to hold on, just get off a good start, and I guess everything worked out perfect.
Awesome. You didn't have any trouble with the wind or anything? Is everything stayed pretty?
It was like a lot less windy than we had in practice, so it was a lot easier. And I mean, my home course in Germany is pretty windy all the time, so I'm used to it. I like it a lot. The wind is actually pretty fun.
Awesome.
I'm
All right,
sucking
well,
on
do you
one
wanna
of
thank any
these
sponsors or
Avery
anything?
Jenkins
Right here.
energy gels.
Mania baby.
Look how new
here.
that RV
Right
was.
here.
That thing is all
Got them.
so beat up now. It's like that thing was shiny
Well, we'd
new.
like to thank our sponsors, Snap Spin Disc
Oh,
Golf,
wrong side.
U-Disc, Disc Skater, and Bearded Brothers. Thanks for watching.
Hey, my interview skills were already good back then.
So I think there was probably a discrepancy in the scores, because it showed that McBeth had me by 3 going into that last one, but I think he had me by 2. But anyhow, that was a moment that, even though, like you said, this wasn't a national tour, we all knew that Simon Lizotte had arrived. We kind of been waiting for this breakout victory to come, and it took place at the 2014 GBO. And he's got the
look,
trophy!
there's the trophy. Wow.
My hand's been on that trophy. There's a picture of
I
that.
think it's so funny.
I
how
can feel the
How
energy.
they would make y'all do that. Everyone has to.
No, this has been obviously one of the key moments in my American disc golf career. And even though I've been close many times winning tournaments, like I haven't won that many, so it's still special.
Where does it rank as far as top 5 victories?
Oh, top 3? Probably 3rd, I would say.
Yeah? European Open?
Yeah.
Or
Well,
the
my
European Championships?
European Championships has got to be the most important for me personally. It changed the most in my life, and then Memorial for me was just such a dream come true on an event that's been around for so long, where I've watched Climo, Barry Schultz, Nate Doss, Avery Jenkins, all those guys play for decades, and I was like, once you win an event like that, it's like, okay, you're like one of the guys.
I'll take that.
You won it.
Yeah, that was, yeah. But this is about you and GBO. But yeah, that was definitely, Memorial is to win those 2 events, you know, that shows that you have got the open game, the hyzer game down pat, especially with those long spin putts going in from everywhere. You know, that was the emergence of a young superstar. And, you know, I remember the aura, the word, I don't know, there was this buzz about this young German kid for years. And I remember I couldn't wait to finally play with him. And the first time we ever met, I believe, was back in 2011 in Finland. And it was the first time I ever played with you was at the Tali Open. And it was the first time I got to see like what you were about. And you were at that time, geez, you were 18 years old. But you know, the word was already out. You know, everyone in the disc golf community had already heard of Simon, and we couldn't wait for you to get back over to the States and start touring with us. And then you started winning, so we wanted you to go back, but No, it's cool to go back in the vault and see your first big win.
Yeah, and there's been so many cool tournaments and cool memories since, like fun boat rides and stuff. It's just always been a blast.
Oh yeah.
Oh man. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us for this little trip down memory lane from 6 years ago. I know that this tournament, we've all made it clear that this tournament holds a special place in our hearts. This was our first time to go to GBO. It was our biggest event that we'd done to date. Simon, obviously, one of his top 3 most memorable wins. Jerm had a lot of emotion behind that event as well. So I appreciate you guys going through that with us. It was so much fun to go back and see how much things have changed since then, and really appreciate, kind of where we've come from. So once again, thank you guys for joining us. We hope to have you guys back on another trip down memory lane as we continue to go through the vault. And thank you all out there for joining us along with this trip. Be sure to let us know down in the comments some of your favorite parts of this specific tournament, but also what else you'd want to see us dig up and revisit. And make sure you're subscribed. And thanks for watching.
Awesome job. Thank you.